Hello, everybody. My name is Khelan McGee, and today we have someone incredibly special from Kansas Com. She's a great histology professor. She taught me everything that I need to know, and so on and so forth. And most recently, she is the associate dean of preclinical studies here. So please help me in welcoming Dr. Jennifer Dennis. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you, Kellen. Thank you so much for inviting me today.
Of course, we always have a fun time in class.
We do.
I want everyone to see how fun you are outside of class, and it just especially how intelligent you are as well.
I don't know about that.
Oh my gosh, come on now. So let me ask you this actually. So I know you didn't start off in the medical school, obviously, but what inspired you to even get into histology, embryology, so on and so forth?
That's a great question. I actually, all growing up, wanted to be a doctor. And I pursued biology and chemistry in college with the intent of going to medical school. And I happened to enroll in a histology undergraduate course and just completely fell in love with it. And then that next time it was offered, whenever it came up again, I had been working with the faculty member who taught the course and joined her lab as a research student. And then she invited me to be a TA in the course. And so I was a histology TA for a number of years, and then that sealed the deal of not going to medical school and instead going to get graduate school.
Oh, nice. It's because for me, histology has always been just a very not ill subject for me, but very difficult. So it's really awesome to see, you see some people right here oh, I this is my niche, and let me show you why I love it. And your excitability in class makes it more enjoyable for me, and I know for other students as well.
Thanks.
So you're talking about how you just kind of fell in love with it in undergrad, and then you had that opportunity in graduate school. So what was your path in to teaching histology or teaching embryology? How did you went from the lab to where you are now?
Yeah, no, I did a number of years of student research, and then I went to a summer program in Arizona and stayed on there as a master's student. Oh. And one of the things that I had just had in other courses as an undergraduate student and then in graduate school was a lot of cell biology and developmental biology. And I ended up actually spending my master's degree studying moths and the development. Studying the development specifically of the olfactory system of the tobacco hawk moth, known as a really weird name called Manduca sexta. It's this massive caterpillar, massive, 3 inches long, and it's bright green. But I studied the development of the olfactory system in that. And so it wasn't super exciting, but I really liked the science. And then I decided I wanted to do something that was more human relevant and not just moths and flies too. And so I switched, finished that program, and then applied to graduate school for my PhD and chose to pursue craniofacial development as my lab home. And then that's how I got introduced to embryology.
Oh, nice. Mm-hmm. So let me ask you this, as a kind of totem or momentum for your past, do you have a little a moth just in your house, or
Yeah, I don't, but I will tell you, I don't know if you remember or if you've seen reruns of the show called Fear Factor.
Yes
those big green caterpillars that they used to honestly ingest on the show, those are the moths that we used to have in the lab. Yeah.
Oh wow. Did that ever inspire you to just try one of them?
No, honestly, the hemolymph, this is totally nerd out, but the blood of the moth is not really something you want to be eating. It can make people, it's not necessarily really poisonous, but it can make you sick and have, gastric problems. And so it would not be something that I would recommend, and yet they were doing it on TV. So
yeah, you hear that? People don't do what they do on Fear Factor from a professional over here. So, going from histology to now leaning into embryology, I know that you taught at multiple colleges before. teaching here at a medical school. So what's kind of the difference between like teaching at like in a master's program or like in an undergrad towards a medical school? Like I feel like they all have like different styles.
Definitely different styles. I would say the key difference is the depth of content and the pace of the content. So for graduate school, we would cover things in very, very weedy detail, but over a slow period of time, over a semester. It would be the equivalent of spending maybe 30 minutes or an hour in a session of medical education, medical school. We might spend a month and looking at all the aspects of that particular topic. In undergrad, it is slower than both of them combined, and definitely far less detailed than both combined.
Right, we're just more broad.
Yeah,
broad
much more broad. But it is a good way to get used to a lot of different topics and build your own, study abilities to be able to handle some of the deeper content versus the faster content.
Yeah, because so my background, I have a master's in comparative biomedical sciences, where we had to do like a lot of histology. And before, or like when I got into med school and I saw that, we had histology, I'm like, alrighty, I'm ready for this, you know? And then, got into histology. I'm like, man, this is a lot more, it's a lot more intricate than I thought, Right. But yeah, I think like having the more intricacies of like what you're teaching really does, even if sometimes we like go a little bit deeper than normal, I think it does actually help round out the picture a lot better, especially for like board style. Because like I'm not gonna lie, you're like, when I'm taking your exams, like you're one of the highest that I have just in terms of questions, and even when I'm practicing UWorld or TrueLearn, like histology, I'm like, alrighty, let me just see what I can point out and figure out, Right.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, so it does help, and I appreciate that.
Well, I appreciate that too. Just knowing that. And helps me confirm what I bring to the classroom the next time I teach that same topic. So it is good to know and make sure that, you're not here to earn a PhD in histology, which would be an amazing thing for whoever has that type of credentialing, but it's not why you're here. So it is important, even though if it's something I really love or another faculty member really loves, that they exude that, but also sort of stay in line with what you need to know later down the road.
No, I absolutely agree. So just to kind of round out your kind of past, so was there like a certain like mentor, or did you have or do you currently have like a mentee or something that is kind of inspiring you or has inspired you to continue on what you're doing?
I would say actually yes. My PhD advisor, he and I are still in touch. I see him every year. He is an anatomist as well, but he chose a different career path. He works at a private research institute and has spent his entire career investigating the genes that regulate various aspects of embryonic development with major multi-million-dollar NIH grants and funding with 10 to 15 postdocs in the lab at any given time. And I was his first graduate student.
Oh, wow.
And so we just have continued to have an ongoing interaction where now, I'm pretty much an adult in his eyes, where at a time I wasn't, but I was more of a student. But now it's more about mentoring and sponsoring, and I go to him asking for advice, and we still catch up at annual meetings and have lunch or go out to dinner with other friends and such. And so that is totally invaluable. So it's really awesome. And it's interesting, he still has graduate students, and then meeting them, thinking about where they are versus how I sort of used to be them. And so they ask me questions as well. And he's a super nice guy. I would work for him again at any point in time, so that helps too.
Nice. Yeah. That's special moments like that, or like special people, no matter where you have them in your life, once you meet them, they help shape who you are. They like help drive your confidence, and they're like, in the back of your mind, they're always one of the reasons why, like, hey, I can do this, even if you're having a tough day or whatever. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, actually, I've known him almost now over 20 years. So I started in his lab in 2004. So it is 21 years that we've known each other.
Nice.
So a funny story about him, I went to the Royals game in Kansas City with family, and we were down sort of by the main dugout area, home field, or home base, excuse me, and in the lower rim of the stadium, and they were doing the crowd cameras, and it was dancing, so you had to like stand up and dance to whatever the music was. I have no idea what the tune was, but I stood up and I was like dancing with my oldest, and then my youngest and some of the other kids and spouse were just sitting off camera, but we made it on the Jumbotron.
Right.
And I was just dancing, being ridiculous, and to sit back down, and all of a sudden I get this text, and it's Paul, my old boss, and he's like, "Are you at the Royals game dancing on the Jumbotron right now?" Because he was also at the game. So yes, that was me. That was me. Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah, I'm like making you proud, even still.
Yeah, 20 years later,
20 years later.
I'm still got it. Don't worry.
Yep. So he thought that was hilarious, and it was, of all people. So.
Yeah. Oh man. Alrighty. Well, I'm gonna push this forward just a little
Sure.
bit. So now here, so you're here in a like academic setting. You know, you're helping teaching like us. You know, me, my cohorts, and whoever. So what do you think we like as students like have one of the most like struggles with in med school, like either initially or like continuing on or whatever, from what you've noticed?
I would say it is just how each of you individually adjusts to the volume.
Right.
Whether that impacts you because maybe you stop coming to class or can't find enough study time to get through the content, you've gotten through some of the content or all of the content, but it's not as many times as you need to really, really apply those answers on the exam. That's probably one of the key things, that volume adjustment, and how someone does or doesn't adjust to that, really I think is one of the key things that impacts success.
Yeah, like there are blocks that we have where it's definitely a lot more heavy in content, and then some blocks were like, okay, we can kind of like, this is a little bit more relaxed, we can breathe a little bit, but I think a good way to like, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but like I think a good way to like mitigate those type of stressors, especially with volume content, is just to like have a routine for yourself, like like making sure like, hey, I'm getting up at this time at like every day. I'm making time for myself at least maybe at least 30 minutes to an hour a day. Having a goal after each test. Like a routine like that can really, at least for me, really like helps drive the point home. Like really like, all right, now I know what I need to do, what I can do, and it keeps me regular, I guess.
No, I totally agree. And I think it's one of those, sometimes students are slower to adapt to that. And even if someone has told them, or other students have told them, you should think about this. Sometimes even just getting over that hurdle of getting that done can be hard for students. But I agree, once they find out what that pattern is, they tend to turn and continue having success or build up to some successes. So that's really great.
Nice. So like comparatively from when you first started your education till now, how has like histology, embryology, like how has that changed over the past few decades? Have you seen like a significant change in like the education or like what we're being taught, or like is it kind of still like?
That's an interesting question. I think it has shifted. Histology, and I did this when I was in graduate school taking graduate histology courses. I had my own microscope that I checked out from the school, and I would lug it around. I mean, it was like practically a weapon. And all the students had it, and the med students too. So there's no students lugging around microscopes. In that particular domain, it's completely shifted to virtual. Right. I mean, even path labs, they have virtual scanners, and the physicians are looking at virtual images a lot of times, not completely, but that has been a huge shift, is the digitization of histology, which is, I think, increased accessibility. There's tons of images now for you all to look at on the web. Embryology is I would say, been cut back a lot. there used to be a lot more emphasis on the genetics and how the genetics provide the patterning and instructions for what a given organ system is doing or tissue is doing in the developmental process. But that information, it tends to be very much de-emphasized in medical education, except in places where known familial or known de novo mutations really are well characterized in patient populations with whatever particular malformation or syndrome, congenitally speaking. Otherwise, I mean, it's like, even if you did development of the mouth and the teeth, we just tell you generally that you form teeth.
Right.
You believe us that when we say that different teeth have different shapes, but there's genetic regulation for each of those shapes and each of the placement of those teeth in your jaw bilaterally and upper and lower jaws. And we don't tell you that.
Right. So is it like similar to like how digital arrays like are pushed, like, you have the teeth like the Hox genes kind of, I won't say running the show, but like, playing a good part in it?
In terms of the front to back, anterior to posterior patterning, yes. In terms of the like canine versus incisor placement, it's actually different genes, like some of the FGFs and some of the BMPs that we've talked about in other ways. But yeah, we just don't get into the how as much from a genetics perspective. And for some students, it's good because it's very detailed. And not everybody loves transcription factors, but for other students it provides some of the back context that they're like, wow, that actually helps round out the picture for me. I know I don't need to know it for the test, but it better helps me make those connections. So if I know a student prefers that, then I can give them that detail, but I don't necessarily give it in class.
No, and that's what I was saying earlier, where like me personally, like, it's once I have those details, then like I can get the full picture. Like, you don't want to see the Mona Lisa without the background.
Yes.
Then you're just like, hey, it's just
somebody cropped it.
It's just so who cropped this? What's going on? Why is she half smiling like this or half frowning? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. And so I would say those are kind of the two biggest changes for histo and embryo in particular. Yeah.
Okay, nice. So what is something that you would want students to know about you, like, just like not as a professor, like, in behind the scenes of all the work that you do?
I would say it's, in some ways it's pretty basic, but just that, I'm a normal person just like they are. I think, and my kids have said this too, Mom, you're frowning with your face. And I'm like, I'm not doing anything with my face. And it's like, no, your eyebrows are frowning, and so sometimes I think, even if I'm just thinking about something, do I always look approachable? And sometimes that's no, because I'm either thinking about work or I'm trying to, do something for content preparation and stuff. But at the end of the day, I go to the grocery store just like everybody else. I put gas in my car. My kids tell me no. It's just a regular person. But I think because of the lecture dynamic sometimes and the way that you hear me talk most of the time is very scientific, that you don't typically have the everyday conversations to realize that, I'm going to go home and cook dinner tonight just like everybody else is.
Yeah, so. Like, it I think it is like, not just for our school, but like any school.
Yes.
It's intimidating to go up to someone who definitely knows more than you do. It's like, man, I don't want to sound dumb, or I don't want to like embarrass myself in front of this professor who's highly respected and who's teaching me all this stuff.
Right.
But I think like once like either side breaks the barrier down, then I think like real learning can happen, and it'll be easier and more comfortable for everyone to really enjoy what they're doing.
Right.
In medical school, like, it's hard, it's tough. It's
completely.
It's tough.
It's very tough.
Very tough.
Very tough.
But it doesn't mean that we have to like stress all the time or, just be in our own heads. You know, we have to enjoy what we're doing, because why else would we do it? You know, we don't want to just stress for the next 4 years. You know.
Yeah.
And any small ways that can help. Being able to talk to you, I don't think, honestly, I was very intimidated, not by who you were or anything, but just because the sheer amount of new school, new location, new histology terms that I never heard of before.
Right. Right.
But once I got talking to you, once I get to know you, I'm coming to your door, knocking on.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely, it's great. And it's interesting because I think for a lot of physicians, understandably, I've heard people describe it as a calling, and it is to some extent like their own identity and who they are, and that's true for me as a scientist and a faculty member. But I think it's easier for me to make my work distinct and separate versus, when I leave here or on a Saturday, XYZ. And so I guess I would say I'm not just that.
Right.
And I'm just a person doing whatever on the weekends, I guess you all are studying. But, if you weren't studying, doing everyday kind of things. Yeah.
So speaking of not everyday things or beyond that, what do you like to do just in your off time?
I if the day is not dedicated to something that's on my kids' schedule, because that's usually what I'm doing, and sort of usually what dictates what we're doing any given day of the week. But if I didn't have them and I wasn't already on vacation or something like that and just home, I tend to do a lot of cooking and baking. Really actually pretty good at it, honestly, especially baking. And I like naps a lot, professional. I can almost sleep anywhere. And then I actually am super into BBC TV shows, whether they're a TV series or a movie. Sometimes in the US, a lot of the TV shows are very gory. And sort of have a substantial horror element, which I love, the murder mystery, but sometimes it's just a little too much or too realistic.
Yeah.
The British series have a lot of that, but
they have a plot line.
There's a plot line, and the terror is not gore based. Right. It's so much more for lack of a better description, intellectual. One show in America would be a whole season on in some of the British. So I'd watch a lot of those. Yeah, a lot of those.
Yeah, I actually used to before I got to med school, I used to watch shows like Sherlock, Luther, British baking show,
Right, In the Tent.
Yeah. So,
maybe that's the name of your podcast, In the Tent.
In the Tent,
I mean, we're not really in a tent, but hypothetically.
Now I have to buy a tent. I have to bust out, go to my Boy Scout days, and bust out my old tent.
You already have the wheel.
Exactly.
It kind of goes same theme, same vibe.
Exactly.
But yeah, nothing too. The other thing I do is I've been a season ticket holder for the ballet for probably 10 years.
Oh wow!
In Kansas City, so I am super into that every season, and I do go see the symphony a lot.
Oh, I'm a big orchestra guy as well.
Yeah.
I used to go to the Fox Theater whenever they would come, and
nice.
see whatever musicals, plays, renditions or whatever. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I don't play an instrument. I'm not musically talented like that, but
it's nice to appreciate. Yes.
Oh my gosh, yes, so talented.
Alrighty. So when you're teaching histology or embryology, what do you do to help keep students engaged in your material?
I ask a lot of questions. I try and hold out for answers. And it's interesting because every cohort is different. In your cohort, there are students that are very open and interested and willing to engage and respond with answers. But that's not always the case. And so sometimes it's literally I'm going to just wait this out for a while until someone answers. Yeah. And it is sort of hard at the beginning of the year because sometimes students think that, well, eventually she'll give up and give out. But I've been doing this long enough that I've learned you have to wait it out. And that actually over time increases students being comfortable answering back. And so that does help. But there are just other times that, the content is just dry and hard and Sahara Desert. And so I don't ever want to say that the content is boring to students who are in the classroom, but I do think it's okay if it's like, I know it's going to be a hard day, or I'm the last person in a long day of lectures.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just have to go easy on it and just understand that they're not in the same place that you are, and that's okay too.
Yeah, it's a whole spectrum.
It's a whole spectrum.
It's a whole spectrum. Either it could be really cool, really interesting, or like, maybe for a nicer term, not as cool or not as interesting.
I used to do a lot of like jokes or memes, but I was younger, and so I was like more into the same kind of music and, for lack of a better word, hipper, I guess. I don't know. But now they tend to fall flat because the age gap is getting too much. So that's been harder. But I used to do a little bit more of that.
Oh, okay, nice.
So.
Nice. Yeah. Let's see. So. Ooh, let me 1 second. Okay, so you've been working at this medical school for almost 2 years now. Mm-hmm. What can you say, like, in your own opinion and your own like scientific opinion, what do you think would make, what qualities students or like even like other like medical professionals would have to become good physicians or become good medical practitioners in whatever way?
Just characteristics in general, you mean?
Just characteristics in general, like whether it be like and for anyone, like a nurse or for tech, for PA, so on and so forth.
Right. I think while you're in medical school, fortitude, because you can be a really great, compassionate, empathetic person, or you can be maybe characteristics that aren't as much of that. But if you don't have the fortitude to get through all of the material and take and do the studying that it takes day in and day out over years of time, it's really hard to come out as a physician on the other end. And so it is just knowing in yourself that this is what you want out of your life. And sometimes for some students, that's been their dream their whole life for, whatever led them to that. And then for other students, it's something that they've more recently discovered, but to have the fortitude not to give up on that. I think some of the compassion and empathy, in most medical students that I've worked with, it is something that's very consistent. So I think in general, a lot of people come and want to be a physician because they're already that compassionate, really caring, outwardly directed kind of personality. And so that's already a common theme. But for the students that tend to seem to do and handle the rigor as well as compared to others is because they have those things, but then also have the fortitude.
Right. It really, you can be like you said, you can be the nicest person ever, but if you don't have that conviction, medical school is going to eat you alive, and you're going to walk out with $100,000 in debt. Yeah,
it is. I mean, it's really tough in so many different ways. It's not just the schedule or the type of content, the amount of content. It's all of those things combined in a very intense period of time. And then that intensity shifts when you're out in the clinic and hospitals in third and fourth year, but it's still super intense. It's just for different reasons. Right. And so that conviction, I think, is definitely what gets a lot of students through.
Nice. Okay, let me see. So, what has kept you so passionate about teaching after doing this for so long?
That's a super easy question to answer, honestly. And I don't know what anybody else on the faculty might say, but for me, it's totally the students, 100%. I have students still texting me from that I've known recently and worked with recently that are now current fourth years. Students that are in residency, students that have finished residency, and just you meet students, especially the ones that you know better than others, and you end up investing in each other in different ways. And so that, coupled with the intensity that is medical school, I think it just puts a different perspective on your interactions. And so that in some ways galvanizes that to a period of time when, you know, you can say that these people got me through the hardest times of my life. And then for us, or me at least as a faculty member, it's seeing you in those moments, but then moving past them and expanding who you are as a person and a student and a physician as you grow and learn more. And then you're out in residency and doing all the physician things. So it's just a lovely little microcosm of awesomeness.
Yeah, and I agree. So like, I don't know if you know this, Dr. Jones, but I actually, before I came to med school, I taught GED at a
I didn't know that.
Yeah, at a college for like a little bit over like a year and a half.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so I remember I had this one student. She was 63 years old.
Oh wow, yeah.
Yeah, and it was my very first student, first day of class. She comes in, she was like, you know, I know I'm older, but, you know, my husband died like recently, and, you know, now I have all this time myself, and, you know, like I never pursued an education before, and I want to like, and like my goal now in my life, you know, as I, you know, before I, you know, whatever, I want to get my GED, and not only that, but she wants to go to college and like do advertising. That's all she ever wanted to do.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and it was like, you know, it was something because she like, and honestly, she didn't have like the greatest reading level or math level because she fully admitted she didn't need that back in the day.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know? But working with her for like the year and everything, like she made real strides. She went from like a first grade reading to like high school, like, you know, at the very least.
Right.
She was able to do math. She was helping like other people in the class, like, you know, and, you know, neuroplasticity, like you're not supposed to be learning like these skills at that age,
right?
But, you know, she worked hard, and it's with that conviction, like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
You know, it's you know, if someone wants something bad enough, they'll work at it, and it's really interesting. And so like that's what like when I was teaching, that's what she kind of helped me get through teaching, because teaching can be hard.
Oh yeah,
it can be hard.
Yeah, for sure.
Making a curriculum, you know, like, oh, like, is it like good enough? And then like, you know, some students are like, oh, like, what are you doing? You know, questioning, like, you know, answering above you, answering below you. It's a tough position.
Yeah, there's an element of teaching that is really rewarding. Seeing whether you're a teacher or professor, or whatever level you're working with a student as a person, there's a moment, a lot of times, not for every student, just because maybe you don't know them as well as someone else, but for the ones that you do, there's an element where they finally see for themselves what you've seen.
Yeah, you know, and
and that's great.
Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, you know, when they're doing good, you feel good because you help them do good, and because like also you know that they worked for it, you know, so. Yeah,
no, that's awesome. I'm sure she really appreciated you.
Yeah, we still text every, like, you know, we still text like every now and then, you know.
Right.
You know, she's busy. I think she got her GED and all that stuff, and so she called me when that happened, and then, you know, she messaged me when I was in when I posted about me getting into med school, and so like, you know, it's another just connection to the community.
Yeah, that's lovely. That's lovely.
Alrighty, just a few more questions. So if you could go back and talk to yourself from day one, like day one of your journey to where you are now, what would you tell yourself?
Ooh, you know, I'm a firm believer in the things that I have. I wouldn't undo anything, and I wouldn't try and do anything necessarily differently. I am a firm believer in what I have right now is because of the choices that I made, and so I wouldn't want to undo any of that. But I would probably say that whether it's immediately or it takes a little while, you always find a way.
That's fair.
It just, even if it doesn't work out, you change direction and you think about things differently, you pursue a different option, and it works out either way. It may not be what you thought. My grandmother says sometimes it's not a yes or a no, but eventually.
Right.
And so I guess that's a little bit of the same thing. So, and just that the constant learning never ends, and that I like it actually more than I thought I would 20 years ago.
You definitely have to be you definitely have to be adaptable for sure in anything you do. Adaptability.
Anything.
We're humans. We're meant to adapt. If you.
Yes, because if you don't, what happens?
Exactly. They say, like, the old saying, insanity is like doing the same thing over and over.
Yes.
Yeah, no one adapted.
No one adapted.
I think we need to adapt that saying as well. I've been hearing that over and over as well. Alrighty. So what excites you about the future of medicine,
Oh man. That's a really easy question to answer. The thing that excites me about medicine, and I know it probably doesn't seem like it when you're sitting in the classroom, but like you all are all smarter than we are, without question.
Huh?
Yes. And so just the things that you will be able to think about in ways that someone my age would never be able to, because of what you've had access to growing up in terms of technology and how people think about things and innovation. It's almost like the next generation behind you is primed to find things that people my age or older wouldn't find, because they just don't have that exposure and experience that you do from being, reliant on and coming from what people before you learned. And so that in turn, I totally think that the next generation creates things that the previous one could never have. And so it's super exciting to think about what advances in medicine, technology, art, everything will come out of people who are younger than me, my kids included, because you're just smarter.
Man, I gotta step up my game in class. That's what I mean. That's what I'm
it's just it's sort of like my grandmother could never imagine some of the things that I talk about at work or school or whatever, because she just didn't have that.
Right.
So some of it just didn't exist, honestly, like the internet, cell phones, and so it just makes me excited for what if you have that. And what and how we use that to come up with new things that I would never dream about.
Okay. Wow.
It's true.
Wow.
It's totally true.
Dr. Dennis, insightful PhD over here. That's awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
And that's totally okay, because I'm fine being seeing that growth, because I think it's just great for us as a country, planet, organization, whatever type of like category you want to put on it.
Alrighty. Last question.
Yes.
So if you were to give any advice to, whether it be students, fellow faculty, or, physicians, what would you say?
About med ed, or just in general?
Just in general. Whether it be about school, about your own studies, life, whatever.
Mm-hmm. I would say be who you are. And there will be people that's not okay for.
Yeah.
And those just, or a workplace or a school even, whatever that may be. And those, it's easy to say those just aren't your people, but people who appreciate you as you are your people, and they are out there even if they're not immediately around you right now.
Nice.
They do exist. Sometimes they're just hard to find, and for some people I know that's harder because of who they are internally and who they potentially want to be externally.
Right.
But there's still people out there that are your people.
No, yeah.
And to be true to yourself.
You just got to be unapologetically yourself. Like, no
Yes.
matter who you are, who you're around with, just be you. You'll be a lot happier. most people will be a lot happier, and I think the world would be better if everyone was just like, hey, this is who I am. Let me peacock it out. Let me show my colors.
Yeah, and I think the more comfortable that you can be, even if it's briefly kind of a projection, people will hopefully learn to respect that, and then that hopefully will turn and complement and build confidence in others. So
nice.
Yep. Unapologetically.
That's
why I walk into the classroom excited about histo. Unapologetically.
Unapologetically loving histo.
Loving it.
Nice.
Reminding you of some other histo or other embryo when it's not related to what we're talking about, but it is sort of tangentially, and students are like, no. Unapologetic. I'm doing it.
It's okay. It's okay. Be you, Dr. Dennis. Be you. Alrighty. Well, I'm done asking you questions. Now we get to play a game.
Sweet.
And I get to bust out the wheel. You know how
long?
The wheel. I spent a whole 5 minutes making this wheel.
This is pretty stellar. I mean, this is I love it.
Yeah.
And the embryologist in me says it's very germ layer.
Oh, I made all these games specifically because I knew you were gonna be here.
Yeah.
So all these are different games.
Okay.
If you hit the black circle, you're just gonna
spin again. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
We're only gonna play one game, so whatever fate chooses. So spin hard.
Makes noise even.
What do we get?
Slide showdown.
Slide
dun
showdown.
dun dun.
Ready, nice. I'm gonna bust out.
No, I have to ask. I mean, is there going to be like Nickelodeon slime or anything like that?
No,
if I get it
I don't
wrong?
have the budget. I don't have a budget.
You could have probably crowdsourced something if it involved slime.
Oh,
or like a pie to the face.
I could have busted up my 3rd grade science experiments.
Yeah.
How to make Play-Doh or putty. Alrighty.
Slide showdown.
Oh yeah. Alrighty.
All right, here we go. A slide showdown histology guessing game.
Yes. So the point of this game, I'm gonna show you a picture.
Okay.
And you're just gonna tell me where it's from.
Okay. What organ?
Yeah. What organ or specifically what organ? Yeah, it is. Alrighty. Ready?
How are you gonna tell me if I'm right or wrong?
Oh, because it will tell you it's
okay.
Right around. Alrighty. Guess this tissue.
That's the trachea.
Man, that was right. You're breathing through this one.
You making it easy at first. Okay.
Alrighty.
That looks like large intestine.
You sure?
Yes.
Alrighty. Let's see what it is. It is actually the parasympathetic ganglion. But don't panic, it's autonomic. So alrighty.
Are you in the large intestine when you're looking at parasympathetic ganglion, or did you need an arrow?
Oh, I just I don't have an arrow.
Oh, okay,
but,
okay. I see. I know what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah, they're in there in between there. Okay.
Yes. Alrighty. This one.
That one, I'm gonna say is aorta.
You'd be correct. You're really putting your heart into that guess. That was really good.
Thanks.
Oh my gosh. I need to get this good. See, I hope to get this good on the exam.
Oh, that's growth plate. That's a bone.
That is growth plate. Oh my gosh. The
A
epiphyseal.
bona fide growth zone? Oh, I'm stealing that for MSK. That's awesome. That one's pretty tough. The thinness is throwing me. I'm going to say I'm stuck between just like skeletal muscle or the tongue.
Which one? Best guess, first guess.
Tongue. Bladder. Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh, I could see that. Yeah. You're
So-
in for a challenge. That one was really tough.
You're in for a challenge, yeah. And then-
But you could see a lot of the muscle.
yeah, so like
Yeah,
you
the
could see a lot of
bundles.
muscle, but like if I were able to zoom in, and
yeah.
you could see the transitional epithelium.
Yeah.
See,
That would have made it too easy if you would have zoomed
see,
in.
I know
Yeah.
terms too, Dr. Dennis.
I love it.
You know. Alrighty.
That is historically called pigmented skin.
That's
Melanated skin.
Yeah,
Oh,
and specifically
and
the
there's
corpse
the
skull.
Meissners.
Yeah.
Oh, that is the heart.
Yeah, it is.
It's a ventricle.
Which one?
Well, I would say left because it's really thick.
I'll give you the heart. You know, I think it's the right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, from the coronary artery right there.
Yeah, this bundling isn't I almost said, like at first I thought maybe it was the pyloric
No, but
sphincter.
you still
sorry.
still got it. I'm like, my goodness, and that's it. that's all. My goodness, Dr. Dennis, you were breezing through that.
Breezing through. That was fun.
Oh,
That was
yeah.
fun. Well, thank you.
Dr. Dennis, thank you for coming today and speaking to me and playing some games. I really appreciate it.
Likewise. Thanks for organizing and inviting me and making the games.
Oh yeah,
That
I
was
have
pretty
I have
awesome.
so many more.
I know. That's awesome.
Alrighty, we good?